Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're taking a bit of a detour from our usual modern data and reports, and we're diving headfirst into this deeply atmospheric piece of traditional rural folklore. We're unpacking a story known as The Tale of the Witch's Sorrow. And let me tell you, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill ghost story. It's this incredibly fascinating look at hidden power, rural Indian folklore, and honestly, the really tragic origins of these supernatural entities. So let's set the scene. Imagine a world where the totally mundane, everyday life of a government worker just collides head-on with ancient, dark magic. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Can an ordinary government clerk actually be a master of dark magic? Because usually when we think of a supernatural master, we're picturing, an ascetic up in the mountains, a wandering mystic, or maybe a seasoned village shaman. We definitely don't picture a quiet, unassuming guy shuffling files at a desk from 9 to 5. But that is the exact mystery at the heart of today's explainer. How on earth could an everyday office worker be hiding these terrifying supernatural secrets? Well, to figure that out, we first need to understand where he works. Section 1. The Mysterious Office. Picture this. We're traveling out to an incredibly isolated rural government office. You can only get there by these rough, bumpy dirt roads, and the building itself is practically swallowed up by its surroundings. We are not talking about a bustling city bureaucracy here. The place is choking in overgrown wild bushes. It's so dense it literally looks like an impenetrable jungle. Aside from the front door, the whole building is covered in tall grass and weeds, even over the windows. So even in the middle of the day, there's this persistent, gloomy twilight inside. And with only 5 employees actually working there, there's this deep, almost eerie silence hanging over the place. Honestly, it feels less like an office and way more like a forgotten ancient ruin that the jungle is just trying to take back. Now, inside this quiet little ruin, you've got this brilliant character dynamic that really shows off the two extremes of the office. On one side, there's Ramesh Babu. He's the clerk. He is super calm, intensely serious, and mostly just keeps to himself, though he is a really focused listener. And then, on the totally opposite side, you have the Pyan, Ram Kelawan. This guy is the life of the office. He's talkative, a bit jumpy, and he absolutely lives to come in every morning and spill the latest terrifying ghost stories and gossip from his village. Now, most of the employees just tune Ram Kelawan's wild stories out, but Ramesh Babu? He always listens, and with this really unnerving intensity. Section 2. The Witch's Shadow. Okay, so that normal office dynamic shifts incredibly fast one morning. We go right from standard office gossip to a very real, very dangerous supernatural threat literally knocking on their door. Basically, Ram Kelawan's own daughter-in-law had gone into the dark forest to gather wood just as evening was falling, and the unthinkable happens. She ends up possessed by a witch. Local cattle herders actually found her wandering aimlessly deep in the woods and brought her home. Initially, the family did what anyone out there would do. They called in the local expert, Soha Baba. He's the village shaman, and he actually managed to banish the spirit that night. But man, the relief did not last. By the very next morning, the witch was back with a vengeance, possessing the poor woman all over again and just throwing the entire family into total panic. Which brings us to a completely frantic Ram Kelawan showing up at the office. The guy is sweating profusely, furiously wiping his forehead with a towel, and he practically intercepts Ramesh Babu before they even get inside the building. He's stammering out this desperate plea, saying, "Babu, Babu, a disaster happened last night. My whole family is in grave danger." He is begging his quiet boss for literally any kind of advice. His family's life is on the line, the local shaman's magic is failing, and Ram Kelawan is just entirely out of options.
Section 3. Ramesh Babu's Narkle.
So this is where the story takes a massive turn. How does our quiet, serious government clerk react to this terrifying news? You'd probably expect some sympathy, maybe confusion, or even fear, right? But no, Ramesh Babu actually laughs. He doesn't offer any empty condolences. Instead, without saying a single word, he walks right over to a wild bush outside the office. Step 1, he just plucks a few ordinary leaves. Step 2, he holds them close and whispers this silent, secret mantra over them. And step 3, he hands them to a very confused Ram Kelawan and tells him to go home, grind the leaves into a juice, and make his daughter-in-law drink it. He just casually promises to drop by later after he finishes his paperwork. By the time Ram Kelawan rushes home, things are looking grim. And this right here perfectly illustrates the massive power gap between these two practitioners. You have the recognized village expert Soka Baba sitting outside on a cot, looking completely defeated. He has spent hours throwing every spell and trick he knows at this thing, but the witch is just too strong. She's actually mocking him. Sokababa flat out admits he's powerless and gives up. Meanwhile, you have this ordinary government clerk who just sent over a handful of crushed leaves. The contrast is just staggering. Out of pure desperation, the family decides to just follow Ramesh Babu's bizarre instructions. They manage to force the dancing, screaming woman to drink the juice from those crushed leaves. And guys, the result is literal magic. It's instantaneous. Just one single sip. The violent possession immediately stops. The woman completely calms down, the erratic behavior vanishes, and she just sits quietly in the courtyard. The villagers, and especially Sokababa, are absolutely floorbound. They suddenly realize that this quiet clerk possesses a level of mastery that blows everyone else in the region out of the water. Section 4. The Witch's Sad Story. But Ramesh Babu knows the job isn't actually done. Those leaves, that was just a temporary hold. When he finally rolls up to the village on his bicycle, that's when the real confrontation kicks off. He sits down near the calm-looking woman and simply starts murmuring his secret mantras again. Boom. Immediately, the hidden witch reacts, and it is violent. But notice the difference here. She isn't mocking him like she did to the shaman. She is terrified. She starts screaming, "Let me go! I'm leaving! I'm burning! Please, let me go!" The villagers are riled up now. They're practically begging Ramesh Babu to burn her to ashes. But Ramesh, he stays totally stern and composed. Instead of just destroying the entity on the spot, he stops and asks a really crucial question. He looks right at the suffering spirit and demands to know her story. Who are you and why did you possess this woman? And it's right here that our entire perspective on the story shifts, because we're about to hear a deeply tragic backstory that really makes you reevaluate who the monster actually is. Let's look at how this tragedy actually unfolded. The witch reveals that she wasn't always a monster. She used to be human, a young girl from a nomadic Banjara family. Just like Ram Kilawan's daughter-in-law, she went to the forest at evening to gather wood, but she got hopelessly, terribly lost. As night fell and the jungle turned pitch black, she made the fateful decision to climb up a huge, thick tree just to hide from the wild animals, hoping she could just wait it out until morning. But at midnight, everything changed. A powerful, terrifying male ghost showed up. And unfortunately for her, that tree was his home. When the ghost found her hiding up in his branches, he actually assumed she was just another wandering female spirit trespassing on his turf. He started threatening her. The poor girl was absolutely terrified and screamed out, "I am not a spirit, I am human, a human!" But the ghost didn't care at all. Actually, he just laughed at her. He basically told her, "Well, since you're here, you're going to become my bride if you want to make it out alive." So, backed entirely into a corner, the living girl agrees, probably thinking she can just make a run for it as soon as the sun comes up. But wow, did she underestimate how the supernatural world works. The ghost vanished for a second and then came roaring back, bringing this massive storm with him. We're talking hundreds of screeching, dancing spirits descending on the jungle for this horrifying midnight ghost wedding. And right in the middle of this absolute chaos, a jealous female ghost suddenly appears out of nowhere, furious that the male ghost is taking a new bride. In a blind fit of rage, this jealous spirit violently shoves the living girl right out of the high branches. She hits the ground, and that's it. Her life ends instantly. She died terrified, totally alone, and trapped among monsters, which eventually twisted her into the minor, sorrowful spirit she is today. Section 5. The Mysterious Ending. So, hearing all this, Ramesh Babu's anger actually softens a bit. He even offers the possessed woman a drink of water just to soothe the spirit inside. But, empathy aside, he still has a duty to protect the living. Ramesh tells the sorrowful spirit that she has to leave these villagers alone forever. And to make sure that promise sticks, he forces her to undergo this really definitive traditional banishment ritual. It's called Thukar Chatna, which literally translates to licking your own spit. In this local folklore, forcing an entity to break their pride through a deeply humiliating act of submission is basically the ultimate way to bind them to a vow. And once she does it, she is finally released. But right before she vanishes for good, the witch actually drops a warning on him. She tells him, "Look, I'm just a minor spirit. The jungle out there is swarming with ancient, far more terrifying things. How are you possibly going to protect the village from all of them?" And Ramesh Babu, he just gives this small, knowing smile and drops this incredibly confident line, "You spare these people, leave the rest of the ghosts and spirits to me."
It's such a profound moment. He's not just some clerk who figured out a neat party trick. He is an active guardian, literally holding back a tide of darkness from his unassuming little office desk.
Which really brings us to the end of our explainer and leaves us with this massive, lingering question. Sure, Ramesh Babu saved them from this one tragic spirit today, but what about the hundreds of others that gathered in that storm? The folklore intentionally leaves this wide open. It really makes you wonder about the quiet, unassuming people in your own life, right? Like, what unseen battles are they fighting that you know absolutely nothing about? Thank you so much for joining me today for this explainer. What do you think? Could an ordinary government clerk truly be the ultimate shield against the supernatural? Let that thought linger, and I will catch you in the next one.